Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Service Without Excuses podcast. We are here. It is a Thursday evening in cold, blustery New Jersey, and my guest is also in New Jersey, a little bit more north of where I am. So I know the weather is probably much worse where he's at. Being a native of Pennsylvania, we had bad weather, and then when I got down here, I felt like I moved to Florida in comparison to that. Now, blood's a little thin. Not quite the same person for sure. So I want to introduce Chris Bolger. Do I say that right? It is Bolger, right?
You are one of the few that say it right.
All
Yes.
right, no problem. Chris has done work with Nestle's, Johnson & Johnson, NYU Stern, and Inc. He is an author, speaker, and coach. But his biggest trait, in my opinion, and the one reason I really wanted him on here today, is there is one major struggle every entrepreneur has above all. And they think it's cash flow. They think it's management skills. They think it's marketing ability. And none of that is true. And my guest here today is going to talk exactly 100% about what that is. That is called mindset. Chris, please introduce yourself to our listeners. Let them know about you.
Well, Rob, thanks for having me on. This is a pleasure to be on this podcast. So one thing you forgot that entrepreneurs struggle with, where they like to not say it's mindset, is things that seem concrete, like lead generation. They think, well, I don't have a mindset issue. I have a lead generation issue. But I've worked with people for the past 14, 15 years that had all the above problems. They thought it was the marketing because there was no marketing. They thought it was lead generation because there was no lead generation. And then when we tap into a different part of their skills, they find that the lead generation and the marketing was never actually the issue. Usually, everyone has a different set of skills, a different set of gifts that presents itself before you even open your mouth. The thing is, that gift knows you, but you don't know your gift. So you do what you think is right. You think you need to do the Facebook ads. You think you need to hand out business cards. But really, what if there was something else that you have that makes life really easy? And it's closer to you than the skills of doing Facebook ads or sending out flyers or making business cards or making a website. And these are skills that are within every single person, and it takes the proper way of pulling it out of them. And then once it's pulled out, now what was hard is now easy. Now the things that you're trying to find are now trying to find you. Last year, I had the pleasure of helping 7 people specifically, that couldn't break $10,000 months become millionaires. And we did it without Facebook ads. We did it with very simple part-time effort, and they're all in different industries. So you find that the things that they thought were holding them back was lead generation, cash flow, sales, client delivery. And client delivery, I think, is one of the most important things, because that leads to way more clients effortlessly. But the one thing that's holding them back for most of them was something as hidden as shame and guilt. But every business owner, no one wants to talk about that. No one even wants to acknowledge the fact that maybe it is the space between your head that's stopping your business from flowing. It feels so good to say it's my business, my marketing, my sales, my lead generation. So it's a problem way out there that we have to solve. So get your attention off of this, off of myself, onto something else. Now we can rip it apart and fix it. But with my background in hypnosis and psychoneurology and NLP, yeah, but NLP is great. NLP is a really great set of tools for helping people, but there's no blueprints. So if I give you a toolbox and say, go build a house, you're going to ask how. When it comes to traditional psychology asks what? They ask why. Why are you this way? So if you had, for those that are smart enough to realize it could be a mindset issue as to why your business is struggling, going to a psychologist or a traditional psychologist or CBT, they ask why. So they spend most of the time finding a correlation to your past as to why you are the way you are now. Why you are the way you are now doesn't matter. How you're doing it now doesn't matter. Well, it matters a little more, but it still doesn't matter as much. What I look for, and this is the quickest, fastest, deepest way, most long-term way to help someone overcome internal suffering, I ask what resource is needed here? And right before this call, I told you how, like, my mission for the past decade and a half was to I want to meet someone. I want to hear the struggle in between the words that they give me. I want to see the blind spots that they can't see. And I want to say and do the one thing that they need that's going to make all the difference. You know, you ever hear like someone says one sentence and out of nowhere, it opens you up. You're like, holy crap, why did that just change the way I look at the world? There's a system to that. And it's a system that I've been creating for a long time. Now at this point, we have so many systems that it just feels comfortable to do what I do. It's my own way of being effortless in my field.
That's awesome. I mean, it truly is. I was just thinking about what you said there for a second. I purchased a gentleman named Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn's one of the biggest podcast coaches out there, and I started doing this. We were just talking about this too as well. I started doing this last year, and I got through a bunch of episodes, and I got new and noteworthy, and magically I stopped. No rhyme or reason. I just said I'm going to focus on something else. Now, again, as we discussed before, I've always been a person doing multiple hacks, multiple things at one time. I like staying busy. Drives my wife crazy, but I like staying busy. And I guess there was a trigger point. I think that's really where I was trying to go with this. There was a trigger point where I'm listening to something Pat Flynn said, and I went, okay, so I want to do podcasting. I don't know why I let it go for a year. I stopped. Something was a mental block. I put it in place. I didn't go anywhere. And something he said went me, I want to do this for the rest of my life until the day I leave this earth, because I really enjoy engagement with people. I enjoy talking to different people. I enjoy the carte blanche between two people. And most importantly, I love learning from other people. And when you're willing to open up your ears, that's why I think God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. No matter how you look about it, you are supposed to listen to learn. Every day is an education. I have a library behind me. Library could be relative. There's a lot of money spent on the stuff back there. But if I didn't use any of it, for whatever reason, mental block, fear, frustration, doesn't do any good. It collects dust. And it happens to most people. And the reason that I really wanted you here today is you understand that you have a unique perspective that most people, most business owners in particular, don't have. They have the focus on so many different things, so many different fires to put out. But they're constantly putting those fires out and they're forgetting about one thing. It becomes themselves and their thought process. What do you think about that, my friend?
Every business owner, let's just call them humans, because every human has patterns. And a lot of these patterns, yeah, they have been there since childhood. Sometimes as an adult, sometime in your life, there were events where you took the video camera off of you, where you stopped becoming the main character in your story. And in those instances, that's where our identity gets fractured. And now we have this gap between parts of who we are. This leads people in business to have these patterns that they can't see. And if you were to show them to them, they would just be like, no, I don't see them. For example, you and your podcast and you hit a milestone and then you stopped. That's a very common pattern and it comes up in different ways. For example, the fitness trainer that breaks 40,000 hours in 1 month for the first time ever. And then the next month, they make nothing. Meanwhile, at the very peak of that victory, they're terrified. They go, oh no, what if I can't do it again next month? And then guess what happens? They don't do a damn thing. They don't do any organic marketing. They do no marketing. They do no referral-based business, nothing. So they make nothing. And then the second month, they make nothing again. The third month, they get excited for making $2,000. And you're like, what the hell happened? What happened in that month that scared them so much that they will never do that behavior again? That's a much more grand scale, but the same thing happens when you hit a milestone that you either didn't expect or didn't envision for yourself. So our ego, our identity has parts where it will do the same thing it's doing right now as a way to protect us. So I would say 99% of all mindset people and psychologists will look at your behavior from the new and noteworthy situation, and they would say, oh, that's self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is not a term that's going to help us fix it. So it's not self-sabotage. No part of your mind will ever do anything to sabotage you and your success, ever. It'll do everything it can to self-protect you. It'll protect you So anything outside of us that, even if it looks good, if it's unexpected or unknown to us, that's too, we don't want that. So if we told, and if you had, if we took anyone and said, hey, here's a blueprint that's going to help you make an extra $1 million in the next 2 months. And when you make $1 million, everything in life is going to be totally different. You're going to have a nice house, nice car, amazing family, amazing health. No party will be the same. As exciting as that sounds, your unconscious mind will set up so many glass barriers that you will not be able to see, to ensure that you never get that goal. So you won't implement the right thing. You won't maintain the right habits. Even if you try with all your willpower and emotion, two big powerful things, it still won't work. So the one thing that entrepreneurs make a mistake with is they look at what's possible and they shoot for $1 million, they shoot for 20 million, 200 million, a billion, and it's too unsafe. It's too different from now. Instead, if you say, hey, listen, Rob, your podcast is going to hit new and noteworthy. It's going to hit 1 million listeners per month. It's going to become one of the top podcasts in business for entrepreneurship in the next year. But the thing is, your life will be the same. You'll still have the same. I always tell people, you'll have the same boring ass life, the same boring ass problems that everybody else has. The only difference, you'll have this really fancy podcast online in a small little window, and that's it. You get to tend to do that. And now it feels safer. And now the actions necessary to get there is going to be way easier with insanely less pressure on you to go after.
You know, it makes total sense. It's something you said before about struggling. We're both musicians. And you look at a musician, say a band particular writes a hit album. I just said album, so I just dated myself. Hit record, whatever you want to call it.
Set.
Yeah, so they hit this milestone. They go platinum. I'm not sure what the number is to go platinum, but it's pretty big. So the artist does that, and they go and they make this thing, and they're touring around the country, touring the world. Everything is awesome. They're taken care of. Everybody loves them. And then the dreaded next record comes to deliver upon the same thing. And their pressure is now mounting from the record label. Things have changed a little bit, but we're just talking traditional. That label is now looking for a repeat of the last platinum record. Now you have the pressure on yourself to go, how do I write another hit record? Point I'm trying to make is, how many bands write that second hit record?
Well, let's look at the
difference. Not a large percentage of them. And those people probably have become, or have worked with somebody that have helped them become very good at overcoming that block, that maybe safety if your subconscious, and I could be way off here, but your subconscious going into some kind of safety mode saying, wait, you can't take that. Can't do that yet. That's not safe. We don't know if it's going to work. It might fail. And they continue to do that. And those musicians, and they have written the second album that is sometimes better than the first one. It's happened multiple times. I think of Bon Jovi right here in New Jersey. Slippery When Wet came out, huge, all over the world. What'd they do? They blasted out New Jersey, the next one, and then actually outdid the first one. So there's some kind of combination of these guys having the mindset of saying, listen, they obviously have skills to write, but skill does not mean you can write. I tell my wife there's talent and there's skill. There's two different things. Talent is you're born with it. You have it. Maybe you've worked at it. Skill, you had to work your ass off to get at it. If you want to be skillful at something, you got to do it over and over and over again and not worry about those blocks, to me. Again, talent is just raw. You have it or you don't have it. I wonder how much of that mindset obviously is in the music business, just to go off on that. But that same mindset, I would think, could be clearly in an entrepreneur's world about, this year we did 1 million. We might do 10% higher next year. We might do 20% higher. They've now put this pressure on them. It's not even a goal at that point. Now, it might be a goal. It might be something that's attainable to them. But sometimes business owners put unattainable goals because somebody told them, hey, you got to think big. I don't think you got to think big. I think you got to think smart. What's your 2 cents on what I just kind of said right there? Again, I know I tend to go off on something a little bit. That's just my nature. But I try to find parallels between two things. I try to find commonalities. Okay, so you said this, and I think this makes sense, and maybe it's applicable to it. But I wanted to know, do you think all this is relative to why people think the way they think?
So a couple of things you said that stick out there, and I want to say yes, but then there's more. When a person hits a milestone in life and then they struggle to go past that milestone at some point, it could be because of what you just said. But other people, let's take an example, the mindset of the person who peaked in high school. Peaking in high school is a term we use to describe someone, let's say like the football player, or in college, the football player that had a great year and now they spend their entire life reminiscing about that great year they had. And then you meet them 30 years later at the high school reunion and they're bald, fat, and they're just a slob, but they're still living in that moment like they're the best thing ever, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, everyone else has gotten jobs, degrees, families, and they take care of themselves. So people do that in business too. That happens simply because you stopped asking questions. When you master something, when you get stuck in a moment, like let's say you fight for a certain milestone, you get there. It's easy to take your foot off the brake and sit back and say, I made it. I made it. Remember that time back then when I made it? Meanwhile, everyone's superseding you and everyone's exceeding your expectations and what your goals. And you could do the same thing. So part of that's asking questions again. Another thing, now this is where like we can go off on so many freaking tangents because I've heard so many of these problems, but the mechanism behind those problems are mostly different. One of the biggest challenges with working with people that have changed their mindset is knowing what the mechanism behind is going on in their mind. You go to a psychologist or an NLP practitioner or anyone, they'll do some things to you and it's very trial and error-ish. But if you're running a business and you have deadlines to meet, you don't have time for trial and error. This is at least the people I work with. You work with a CEO of a company who is, and I quote, decapitates people metaphorically. You have 20 minutes and you better perform.
Right.
Let's take, for example, the pandemic, right? Before we were all quarantined, some people were having a great life. I had one client who was working at a gym, making $30,000 a month, great health, great family life. He had time for his kids, more clients than anyone else in the entire gym. $3,000 a month at a public gym. It's crazy. Pandemic hit, takes everything online, struggles to make $6,000 a month, has no time for his health, no time for his family. All of a sudden, what changed? I mean, yeah, the circumstance changed, but why can't he perform even half of that, what he did before? The reason why, and this is a very unconscious process, some people are considered internal and some are considered external. And this is very different from association and dissociation, which is being inside or outside your body.
Okay.
When an external person is external, meaning their focus is up and outside of themselves, performing is super freaking easy. Super easy. It's fun. When you're playing music, you're outside your body. You're in a flow. You become the activity. And that's why when you pick up a guitar or play your drums or play bass, after playing it, you feel like your entire life has elevated having played it.
True. Very true.
That's because you go back to the position of life where you should be for who you are. And everyone is kind of hardwired to a degree on how that looks like. Now, let's take an external person and turn them internal. So let's take all the whole outside environment and take it away from them. Let's put them in front of a laptop. Let's make them think a lot. Let's get them in their head a lot. Let's make them not have any physical human contact for a while. Now let's tell them, go make $30,000 a month. That's going to be hard. So now an external person who's living as an internal, which is a very subtle, invisible thing, they will start to have unexplainable ailments, physical and health ailments. They'll start to have obstacles that they know for a fact they've solved before, like no problem, but now all of a sudden they get startled. They get spooked by noises. They can't find peace. Doing even $2,000 a month suddenly is difficult. They're still the same person, but for some reason, it's like they can't move in the direction to get their thing, and they can't figure it out. They go to specialists and they say, "Oh, you're crazy. You're just fine. It's all in your head." They get health tests. Their blood tests are great. They're perfectly balanced. But why do they still feel off? Unconscious positioning is a major, major, not talked about thing in the field. I spent the past 12, 13 years coming up with this system called the perception process. And this is 47 different factors that are part of figuring out how people process information. Think of it like building a house. If we only have a certain set of materials in a certain time frame, in a certain budget, we can't afford to make mistakes cutting the wood, or the whole house is screwed. So we measure twice, cut once. We're not going to cut twice and measure once. So when it comes to helping someone overcome problems, we measure the mechanism behind the processes that are causing the problem. We measure that twice. And now the exact medicine that they need, the exact words, the exact protocols that they need, the exact resources that are missing. By the way, your unconscious doesn't make new resources. The resource that's missing, delivering that and giving that to them in a way that integrates with the rest of their life. Now that's the easy part. So this is not like personality tests. This is not like the Myers-Briggs or the Hexaco or any of these little tests, that assessments they give you in corporate, because those are super flawed. Those are flawed several different ways. Personality changes over time. It's supposed to. It's healthy. You're not supposed to be an ENFP your entire life. The second thing is when you take a personality test, the questions in themselves. We'll do a little test right now if you want to test me on this. This is immediately a fun little test. The question itself will make you answer in a way that you answer what you think the answer is, but not what the actual answer is. And that happens for all of us, happens to you, happens to me, even when we're aware of it. So what these processes are, they come out in the way you explain the struggle. It comes out in the dynamic of what you're experiencing. And then it shows, like, okay, you're out of alignment with this perception process. That's why you're struggling there. Getting you back in line with that, suddenly life is easy. And it's an instant. It's not 20 years of therapy. It's one call. You're out of alignment in other part of your life. Now, boom, suddenly life is easy again. And it's taken no extra energy or homework or practice or affirmations or mantras or psychedelics, none of those things. You're back in your zone of power, your zone of genius. So when you said what happens when someone hits a milestone and then they can't outperform that, they can't get there again, it really could be, and I hate to be that person who's like, well, Rob, it depends. No, it does depend. It could be that they peaked and they forgot how to ask questions. It could be shame and guilt, saying, well, we did that once before and that felt pretty volatile for us, so we don't ever want to do that ever again. Like with the first time I did sprints, I did them, but afterwards I felt averse to wanting to do sprints again because that was hell. Looking backwards, my brain was like, that was really painful. It was so painful. We can't even remember how painful it was. So let's not do that ever again. When it comes to hitting another $1 million, same thing. It's like, well, it took a lot of work. Your brain starts thinking of all the activities you did over the past year at the same time. And it feels as if you have to do all that right now. Overwhelm, which leads to people not taking action again. So it could be a multitude of different things, but those are some ideas that could be. Like they could be an external person going internal. They could be an internal person going external. It depends on the person, but that's the beauty of working with someone's mind. If it was that easy, we wouldn't even be on this call right now. There'd be some like pamphlet we can all buy and have the pamphlet, and that's our solution.
You know, I think about people always making a New Year's resolution, famous New Year's resolution. What do? I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to make myself feel better. And the ratio of people, including myself in the past, have gone there. You work out for 6 weeks at most. You feel incredible. Your brain feels better. You feel more productive. You know it's good for you. It hurts at first. It's supposed to. That's kind of the process. But you get over past the hurt and you start feeling really, really good. And then what do? You stop. You don't follow through. Something blocks it. And it's not laziness. People are naturally not lazy. I don't think that has anything to do with it. They have this mental block, like I went and worked out, and then they gain 50, 60 pounds afterwards. One thing I found with COVID is people either gain weight or lost weight. I was committed to lose weight. I'm diabetic. I have no choice. I didn't want to be stuck on medication the rest of my life. I just don't want to do that. So you make a conscious decision to say, okay, I don't want to be stuck on that. Doctor said 2 things. You're type 2 diabetic. Awesome. You're not 1, so that's good. You don't need to be on insulin, and you could change it. How, doc? Lose some weight, exercise, stay active. Good for your mind. It's like a therapist and a doctor all in one, just to be able to say, take your time, don't overthink it, come back to basics, and go from there. And don't overthink. You've got to play the wild card, so to speak. I just thought about, like I said, when you're saying these analogies, like the biggest thing I can think about is literally a person that goes to the gym for a few months. And it happens to everybody. I don't care who you are. Nobody starts and stays with the gym. But now they get a point where they say, like my wife is going through right now. She's like, I'm going back. I got a workout partner. We're going to do it. And they've been doing it. They've been going throughout the whole thing. And I said, do you feel better? Yeah. Are you hurting? Oh, yeah. Great. How you know you're alive? You can move on to the next step in your life. Something keeps you going, keeps you moving in a forward direction. I really think that's a lot of an entrepreneur's problem. I'm sure you've probably seen it. It's just this subtle, stupid block that isn't a thick block. It's not a long, dense block. It could be like this, but you think it's like this because you've got in your mind, I am never going to get through that block. But it's only a piece of paper on the other side.
Well, watch this. Let's do. I'm going to say something real quick, and then we're going to go into a quick test. And if you're listening, you can definitely do along with us. You know what the worst feeling on earth is? The worst place you ever want to be, Rob? The worst place you can ever be is winning in life and feeling like you're losing. That's the worst place, because then in that place, no one can help you.
Oh.
When I come across someone like that, the first thing they say is, hey, I got to get me to do this. How do I get myself to do this? How do I get myself to perform again? And right there, that shows that there's an identity fracture. There's a part of you you're treating like a machine, and that means you're just going to keep generating the exact same behavior. How do you get you? How do I get myself to do this thing? It's like, well, that myself you're talking about, that's still you. So how do you do these things? Not how do I get myself? That sounds like how do I get my car to move faster? It's like that's beating a horse. Did you ever watch horse races?
Yeah.
The winning horse is the one that is fed the best food, has the best handlers, is taken care of, is clean, and is well rested. The losing horse is the one that's malnourished and gets beaten. And you can tell from the very beginning of the race. Right out the gate, champion horse takes off. The losing horse is the one who's getting whipped right from the beginning because they're trying to get more energy out of the horse. So the losing horse is being beaten the entire time. The winning horse only gets whipped in the last quarter mile.
Oh, wow.
And that's the champion horse. The champion horse does not get whipped. Most entrepreneurs, they treat themselves like it's a horse race, and they're the losing horse. They beat the crap out of themselves in the first thing in the morning, and they treat it like, how do I get myself to do this thing? And then later on, when they have an output issue, a work issue, an energy issue, a performance issue, they go, what the hell? I'm operating on all four cylinders. How do I get myself to overcome this? They don't realize like they're beating the horse. The horse can't go any faster. It's time for a different strategy. Now, let's play a game real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm going to ask you the same question twice, but I'm going to word it differently. Watch where your mind goes.
Okay.
Both are clear, succinct questions. You'll agree with me there, but watch how you think about things. There are 999 tennis players in a knockout style tournament, which means that in the first round, one person goes against the second person and one person wins. Now, there's an odd number of people. So every other round, one person gets a bye. How many matches are going to happen total? Now, right there, see where your mind is going. Tell me, Speak out loud. What's going on in your mind? What are you thinking about?
I'm trying to calculate it.
So you're trying to calculate. So you're using energy to solve this, right?
Right.
Some people, when they hear this, they say, whoa, I'm not a math person. And they back away. They put a limit on their possibility of getting an answer right away. Other people say, well, give me a pad and paper. Give me a calculator. Give me 20 minutes and I'll come back to you with an answer. Or they say, oh, that's really hard. I don't know if I can do that. It's a lot of work. People right now listening to this are probably Googling this, trying to find the answer.
Yeah.
Now, look, it's taking resources. It's taking energy. It's taking time, right? It's taking effort.
Right.
But we get the question, right? It's a very clear, succinct question. How many matches have happened total, right? I'm going to ask you again, differently. There are 999 tennis players in a knockout style tournament. How many of them have to lose before there's a clear winner?
Half.
998. But even if you said half,
no,
suddenly it doesn't even matter, because what you did there was perfect. You took all the effort went out the window. You didn't need the effort. You had a clear answer all of a sudden. Whether it's right or wrong, you're on a better path. It didn't take any resources. You don't have to look at your calculator. You don't need a pen and paper anymore. You don't need 20 minutes. All of a sudden, you get your answer. And it wasn't because you're dumb or smart. It's because of the wording of the question.
Oh, that's remarkable, man. I really think about it. And anybody that's listening to this, take it, stop it, go back and listen to what he just said, because it really makes your mind. It really it triggers something in your brain. And I think what Chris has been talking about this whole time has been really gifted toward that. We are at the 30-minute mark, my friend. It got here very quickly. And there was a lot of information, a lot of great content. I am going to promote the ever-living hell out of this because it is great information for our listeners. I don't care where you are in the world. The mind is the same in Zimbabwe as it is in the United States. We have a few differences, but your brain capability is the same. Your ability to think outside the box is the same. It's what makes this world an incredible place. People like Chris help us put that place in perspective and help us analyze, or not overanalyze, what's right in front of us. Chris, how can they get a hold of you, my friend?
Best way, my website's being renovated right now, so that's going to be up probably in like 2 weeks, but facebook.com/Chris the Hypnotist, probably the best way.
Chris the Hypnotist. And
one thing you said there about thinking the same, like you're able to achieve a lot of things. If you've seen it done before, we can do it for you. Genius in itself is completely transferable. There's no special gifted person on this earth when it comes to the thinking process. You just need the right learning strategies, which are transferable, and now your performance changes. That goes with spelling. If they're kids or teenagers, ADHD, that's a lie. That's a major lie. That's a story we tell ourselves that we're just processing in beta waves. That's all that means. And fixing that is easy. If there's shame or guilt or something you can't figure out that's holding you back, from this podcast, if someone was to reach out to me and ask to book a call with me, I would give a free complimentary 15-minute consultation to help you figure out what block it actually is, to save you literally thousands of dollars on therapists and mindset specialists.
You had me really thinking something. I've had quote unquote diagnosed ADD for years. But yet this entire conversation, I was completely focused on absolutely everything you said.
And there's a reason why. There's a reason why, and I'll tell you afterwards.
I'm very curious. And guys, look him up. He's also on LinkedIn. If you're a business professional, you can find Chris Bolger very, very easy. He's worked with some of the best, and he can obviously help you. So I got to get you back for another one at some point in time, man, because we could go into a lot of different avenues on this one. Chris, again, thank you so much for being here today on the Service Without Excuses podcast. This is one, guys, you're going to want to listen to over and over and over again. We do them 30 minutes or less for this reason, and we want to make sure that the content is packed. It's kind of like getting bum rushed with a bunch of information. So take it and listen to it over and over. If you got your commute, you're still commuting wherever you're going, listen to it over and over. You will get some incredible valuable information. If I had a notepad here, it'd be done.
And apply it. When you learn something new, you want to apply it. There's a Hermetic principle that says that when you learn something new and you do not apply it, you are directly causing suffering in your own life. And that's why we know a lot of dorky people that know a lot of stuff, but they suffer in life. Take it, apply it, and life just starts to expand, whether it's this information or anything else.
Awesome, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll do another one soon. This is Chris Bolger, and thank you for listening to the Service Without Excuses podcast or watching it on my YouTube channel. Thanks.